What's up, guys? What's up, guys? Hope you're having a great weekend. So, GoodVito, Vitalii Ugolnikov, who took third place last year at the Arnold Classic South America in Sao Paolo behind Antonio Burton and Rafael Brandao, and then pushed Martin Fitzwater to a very close second place last year at Detroit Pro. Just posted this update 2 weeks out from the Arnold Classic South America in Sao Paulo again. And he is looking massive, just massive. He's definitely put on a little bit more size, and wait till you get to the back shots. That's where we really see the improvements. The back was where I felt he was. Obviously, Martin has a great back, and Martin got him in the back shots last year. We'll take a look at that in a second. But he's worked hard. He's made some serious improvements, and I wish he was doing Detroit because Detroit's got an okay lineup. It's not a bad lineup. It would be a lot better with him in it. It's only a week before. However, looks like he wants to get that win in Brazil, which I don't see anybody getting ahead of him. I don't know who's in the show. The list hasn't come out yet, obviously. But let's take a look at last year when it was him against Martin. So this was Detroit Pro. And we'll look at the scorecards because Martin did not win with a perfect score. In fact, they were fairly close after judging. Martin got ahead of him in the finals. We'll look at that in a second. But geez, I think he's very comparable in most shots. It was definitely close between these two guys. Martin did close the gap when they turned around, as you'll see. Martin has a much thicker back. But Vito has been working very hard for an entire year. He's had almost a full year off season, almost a full year because the Arnold was in April. So he did those two shows in the spring of 2024, and then we have not seen him since. And yeah, you could see there, Martin, just more thickness in the middle there. The lats, they come down a little bit lower. But geez, he pushed him. He really did push him. And, the legs, not many people can stand next to Martin Fitzwater and compare with him on quads and hams and glutes and all that. But Vito sure did, man. Vito's lower body, just as impressive, I think. Let's take a look at Vito by himself last year in Detroit. Yeah, big fan of this guy. I'm becoming more of a fan of Vito as time goes on. Look at that. He's not missing anything. I mean, he was missing a little bit of the back thickness, and that's coming along. He's a young guy, still in his 20s. I think he's about 27. And condition, not a problem at all. You could see the condition was right where it needed to be. Glutes and the hams are nice and dug out, crisp separations. Back is good. It's just not great. But the recent shots that we've seen, his back has improved. I'm thinking he's going to keep going. He's going to keep going and do Pittsburgh. I really hope he does Pittsburgh and New York. Why not hit a few shows while he's in shape? Strike while the iron's hot, as they say. Those are going to be tough shows, but you know what? Especially Pittsburgh. But if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. You have to stand next to the best. So let's take a look at the score sheets from Pittsburgh last year. So you can see he really did push Martin. So you see judging, Martin had 4 points. Vitalii, he had 5 points. They were just 1 point apart. Very, very close, meaning he got some first place votes during the judging. Finals, Martin closed the gap there. Perfect score of 3. Vitalii with a perfect second place score of 6. And in the end, they were 4 points apart, with Martin having the lowest score, 7, Vitalii with 11 points. But, man, it was close. And I think it could have – I'm not going to say it could have gone either way. Martin deserved the win. I don't have a problem with him winning. But it was definitely a close call there. And he's improved quite a bit since then. Let's go to a couple of your comments. Because maybe some of you guys know – of someone entering that Arnold South America in Sao Paulo that could possibly give him trouble. I don't know. Maybe there is someone. What's up, Art Quality Cleaning Services? What's up, Connor Burton? How you guys doing? Yeah, I'm very, very impressed with this. This is the best Vitalii has ever looked. Still, Martin Fitzwater's shape seems better. Yeah, I would not be surprised if Martin finishes in top 3. To do that, he's going to have to beat either Samson, Derek, or Hadi. He almost beat Derek last year, but Derek was very, very over-dieted. And I think that was a case a case that was remedied by Chris Aceto this year, just a few weeks ago at the Arnold Classic in Columbus. Chris brought him in looking full, shredded, all that good stuff. Brazil's a new Middle East epicenter of freaks. Brazil has been pumping out some amazing athletes in various divisions: bodybuilding, classic, 212, men's physique, women's bodybuilding, bikini, figure, you name it. They are just a hot spot. I mean, it's a huge country. I think they have 330 million people or something like that. And fitness and bodybuilding, very, very popular. They've been getting more and more popular. The sponsors pay big bucks to the athletes, and that's an incentive for these people to come out and start competing. You know, why wouldn't you? I'm going to find some more updates of Vito. The back shot I was really impressed with. Yeah, let's stop that. Father, GoodVito is dangerous man, especially with the improvements. He was close to Martin. Yeah, he was close to Martin last year, and he's better. Martin's better now too, but you know, they won't be facing off unless Vito continues on and does Pittsburgh, which even if he wins Brazil, which I don't think is going to be a problem. I don't know who the hell's beating him, but I hope he keeps going anyway, even if he wins. GoodVito is going to storm through the upper ranks of bodybuilding this year. Yeah, I think this is going to be a breakout year, as they say. A breakout year. He's going to gain a lot more fans. He's going to beat some people that may have beat him in the past. He's going to move up the ladder, and we're going to see him as what we call the A-list, one of the very best. Brazilian women, girls are a blessing in this world. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't even know. I forgot to say wellness. My gosh, they dominate wellness. I don't even know if the wellness division would have come about, would have been created if it hadn't been for the women in Brazil, because the wellness has been a competitive division in Brazil for years before it was made an official IFBB Pro League division. Colombia, places like that, there's a lot of good wellness people too, but Brazil seems to have, I think his waist is too big. I wouldn't say too big. He doesn't have a tiny waist, but he does not have a blocky, thick waist. I mean, look how wide he is. I don't think he's too tall. I want to say he's about 5'7", 5'8", from what I've heard. I've never met him. I've never seen him compete. Let me go to that back shot, because I'm very impressed by this. Because like I said, last year when I saw him, I thought the back really needs to come up. The back is good. It needs to be better. I think he's put a lot of work into his back over this past year. And yeah, look at the comments. Regan Grimes, GoodVito is coming. Fabrizio Pacholak is his gym trainer. Chris Aceto is his trainer. William Martins Pro says de otro planeta, which I'm pretty sure means from another planet. Horse MD, Mejoro, the best body, the best physique, pose. Oh, the best improved physique and posture. Beirut Tabani gives him some props there. Dr. Mike Israel, Fran Barrios, Bruno Moraes says there's no one for anyone, brother. Some things just don't translate very well, do they? From other languages. Eric Wildberger, another good pro, classic physique pro from down there. Yeah, man, this is going to be his year, I think. I think after this year, a lot more people are going to be talking about GoodVito. Not that they weren't already, but this is a year when he's going to start beating some bigger names. He's going to move up. GoodVito is dangerous, especially with improvements who are close to Martin. Yeah. Storm's Way. Yeah. Brazilian women. Sorry. Okay, so Bayou Muscle, which is Louisiana. You can see the alligator with the big dumbbell there. Actually thought he won more poses than Martin in Detroit last year. He's more depth and density to his back and side shots. Yeah, you know, it's they don't really go by. If it was a matter of you win, so there's 7 mandatory poses. If they scored it, you know, he won 5 poses. He had 5 poses better than Martin. Typically, he would still be the winner, but it doesn't work that way. Obviously, the judges give you a placing. But that'd be interesting if they actually scored by pose, like first place, second place, third place, fourth place in all the poses: front double bicep, front lat spread, side chest, and so on. That would be probably a lot more time consuming and way to do it. Horse MD trainer, tutelage Milos or any other coach. I don't know who Horse is training with. Horse is very good too. I think Vito's better. Derek, also Pittsburgh, should be a wicked battle. Yeah, I did the video yesterday about should Derek Lunsford do Pittsburgh, because Derek has not said one thing one way or another. He just did that Instagram video where he said, should I compete in Pittsburgh Or will I compete in Pittsburgh? He went, So he's thinking about it. A lot of people think he's just going to guest pose, which I think makes more sense. Yeah, I know it's $100,000 and it's Pittsburgh, the first time they're going to have men's open in Pittsburgh. And it's Jim Mannion's show. And he's the godfather of all this. He's the president of everything, the IFBB Pro League, the NPC. Everybody wants to impress Jim, and everybody wants to pay respect and tribute to Jim. He's the man as far as we're all concerned. But I don't think it's the best idea for Derek to try to peak 3 times in 7 months. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't know if it's a good idea. Nick or Vito, what do you think, Ron? I'd probably still give it to Nick Walker between those two. I would. I'm curious. I think someone did a video comparing them side by side. But he's better now than he was. GoodVito versus, let's see if we can find the video, because I think someone actually put their poses together in a video. Yeah. GoodVito versus Nick Walker. That'd be interesting to check out. Oh, I see who did it. I know this guy. He does great work. If we can get through the Snow White. If we can get through the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs promo. So, yeah. Interesting. So, Superset Man, and he does these really cool videos, and he actually gives a score. He gives a very educated opinion on who he thinks gets the poses. So he gave Nick the front double. He gave Nick the front lat. Who's he going to give the side chest to? Oh, he gave the side chest to Vito. Okay. Rear double. Who gets that? Oh, I think Vito got the rear double. I don't know if I'd agree with that. The rear lat. Who gets that? Nick got the rear lat. Why didn't he get the rear double too? Side tricep. I think I'd give that one to Nick. Yep, I give that one to Nick for sure. Nick's arms are just insane. Vito's got really good arms too. We gave him that pose. It's most muscular. Who gets this? Nick got that. Okay, so there you go. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Exit full screen. Get out of there. Yeah. So, yeah. What category did I compete in? Okay. So I'm going to leave, put his posing back up while we're talking, because you don't want to look at me for the duration, do you? Probably not. Okay. So let's go back. What category did I compete in, Ron? Well, there was only one category when I competed. Men's bodybuilding. If you mean weight division, I was light heavy sometimes. I was a heavyweight other times. My very best was probably in the lower, very low end of the heavyweights. Between 202 and 205, I placed second in the men's open heavyweight at the Team Universe. So that was 1 point away from, winning a class at a pro qualifier. Some pro qualifiers, they give you a pro card if you're in the top 2. That one, you actually had to win the overall. I'd rather have Vito's physique than Martin's. I think Vito's limbs are better, but I know that Martin will fare better by today's criteria. Yeah, Martin's got good arms, but they're not great arms. They're not. Vito's arms are pretty damn great. And Nick's good there. Yeah, I'd give that to Nick. I know. The Bush improved. I've seen the video. They raised the Olympia to 1 million. Maria, I'm certain that's going to happen. If not this year, I bet by next year. So it's already at 650. They raised it from 500 to 650 at the last minute last year. I'm really thinking they're going to either announce it ahead of time, or maybe they'll do exactly what they did at last year's Olympia, and very end they'll say, they'll flip the check around, and instead of 650, they'll say 750. And Arnold Classic is 500. I bet they raise theirs, because now there seems to be there's always been a rivalry between the Arnold Classic and Olympia. It's definitely heating up now for sure. Arnold is really taking off the gloves, as they say, and saying, I have the better show. And he wants to really make that assertion that he's got the better show, he's the better promoter. So that just means great things for the fans and the athletes because they both have to step their game up to outdo each other. For crying out loud, they give the best bass fisherman $1 million. Oh, geez, pickleball. I bet there's all kinds of sports that we would laugh at how much money some of these people win. I mean, things like golf, that's a very highly skilled sport. I mean, those guys, I think they deserve their money. But yeah, bass fishermen, I don't know how much. I'm sure there's a lot of skill. I don't think I could catch a bunch of bass, but yeah, for $1 million. Nick is coming with a vengeance. Bring his true freak factor. Oh, absolutely. Nick is looking massive in all the updates we're seeing lately. I don't know if he's under 300 yet, but he was carrying a pretty solid, very solid, I think 305, 310 there for a while. And, he's not the tallest guy. If I'm like 5'7.5", 5'7" 3/4, he's probably right at 5'7". Conflict of being IP print. I mean, there's a lot of things in the industry that you could probably point to as being conflicts of interest. But it does give that contest a massive advantage because everybody wants to make Jim happy. Everybody wants to get on his good side. It's just the nature of the beast when someone runs the company, the sport. So I wouldn't be surprised if a couple more big names aren't added to Pittsburgh Pro. We're still not sure about Derek, but we do know we got Nick Walker, Martin Fitzwater, Crezo. I think is Regan putting in for it now too. It's going to be a pretty damn good show. There's still names being added to the list, but it's shaping up to be a really good show. For Vito, if Nick can somehow decrease it. Yeah, I mean, like last year I was at the New York Pro where Martin really pushed Nick Walker, and I liked Martin's physique better. I love all kinds of physiques, symmetrical freaks. I can appreciate all kinds of physiques, but Nick's midsection was a concern last year. As far as I'm concerned, it was distracting. He didn't keep it under control a lot of times. He does have kind of a thicker midsection, which you can kind of get away with when you have as much mass and freak factor as Nick Walker does. But still, Vito, someone just said, does he have a big waist? He doesn't have a big waist, but it's very rare you're going to see anyone carry this level of mass and their midsection is tiny. I mean, people with really, really small midsections usually don't have the genetic capability of becoming this thick and massive. They just don't. Different types. Super prep coach Boss of Outlaw could only get himself 3.5 hours, 60 days. Well, I don't know why you're bringing up Boss of Outlaw, but okay. Why aren't more people doing Arnold Class South America? Seems an easy qualification. Bonac, he could go to Detroit, then Arnold South America next week. If he doesn't win, maybe he will. It's in the old days, you youngsters, listen up. In the old days, athletes couldn't just jump into a contest last minute the way they do now. Now they have up until Tuesday before a contest to make their intentions known and say, okay, I'll do that show. In the old days, the days when Wayne D'Amelia was running the NPC, the IFBB, which there was no pro, it was just called IFBB because we didn't have two of them back then. You had to, as an athlete, by January 1st, when the schedule was posted, and this wasn't online because there was no internet yet, remember, they had to provide the IFBB with a list of all the shows they wanted to do, and then contracts were sent out to each of these athletes, and they had to sign a contract months and months ahead of time to compete in a given show. And if they did not compete in that show, unless they had a valid medical excuse, an injury, an illness, something like that, I don't think any other excuse was permitted. It had to be a medical excuse. They were fined and or suspended. It happened many times back in those days. But now you'll see a lot of guys, next week in Detroit, there's a few guys trying to get their Olympia qualification, obviously. Some of them who don't get it, and they probably weren't even thinking about going to Brazil, all of a sudden they're going to go to Brazil. They're going to have a passport ahead of time, but we don't need a visa as Americans to travel to most places. We just need our passport. I think Nick's Mexican problem can be fixed. No. I mean, he's a massive freak of a human being. He's got gobs of thick, dense muscle mass. once your midsection gets really big, it's never going back to a smaller size. I know we did see like Rolly Winkler. This was probably going back about 7 or 8 years. Rolly Winkler, who had he developed a bubble gut, and I think he figured out whatever he was doing, whether it was certain foods he was eating, certain PEDs he was taking, something that he was using or eating was causing his midsection to get that bloated appearance. And him and his coach, Grandma Sibylla Peters, they figured it out. And he came back the next season, and the midsection was smaller. So I don't know if Nick has his midsection is something that's the result of he eats too much, or it's is it internal organ growth that's pretty hard to reverse. Once your organs grow, it's pretty hard to shrink them back down again. Or one PED that he's using. People talk about GH and insulin a lot. And I don't know how much these guys use. I know a lot of the fans think they're all on 20 IUs of GH a day and 50 units of insulin a day. And maybe some of them are. I don't think they all are. Big Island Fitness. What's up out there in Tom? Is that your name? I met you in 1991, so forgive me for forgetting. Modern bodybuilding is hell exciting now. Yeah. We've never really had a genuine slump where the sport was crappy and we didn't have, we had like nobody that was very good, but we've had eras where there were just so many amazing guys competing. I mean, we talk about the 90s because it was like a lightning storm, a perfect storm of talent. And a huge advantage that the 90s had back then was we didn't have all these other divisions. There are definitely guys competing now in other divisions like classic physique and even men's physique who probably could be great open bodybuilders if that's the route they had gone or chosen, and they didn't. They want to stay aesthetic and lighter, a little bit smaller. They're not willing to go all out with food and PEDs to be as large as they possibly could. They're looking out for their health maybe, or they just don't like that look. But back then, that's all there was open bodybuilding. So all the guys with great genetics competed. They competed in open. We didn't even have the word open. It was just called men's bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding because that's all there was in the old days. In the old days, you young whippersnappers. Yeah, but Vito, man, I'm so impressed with Vito. I honestly think this is going to be a year where he really levels up, as they say. Who's this guy? I'm going to go to his page again in a second. I got to find some good stuff there. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So let me get rid of this. Yeah, I use StreamYard, guys, and sometimes you have to really click around to get to what you want on the screen. So I'm going to put this shot up of Vito and close it out with that, I think. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I know it's only one pose, but that is a really impressive pose for him. Really impressive. Let's see. Vito's legs look insane. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of guys have big legs, and quad sweep it's kind of a genetic thing. I don't think if you have no quad sweep, I don't think you're ever going to have great quad sweep. You can improve it, foot stance and things like that with a closer foot stance, going lower on the foot platform on things like leg press and hack squat. But if this is genetic. Like Jay Cutler had the same shape to his quads. If you live down the street, would you spend $100 for an all-day pass to Detroit Pro? Yeah, you know what, Zionic? That's actually not bad because if you've been going to NPC shows lately, most NPC shows, regional shows, I'm not even talking about the national level shows, judging is probably like, depending on where, judging and finals, if you buy both tickets, it's probably close to $100 just for that. So for a show like that, that's going to have really good lighting and some decent quality pros in it, yeah, I would do it. Who else is doing Detroit? I know he's not doing Detroit. I just trying to remember who was in the shot. Who was in the show? Yeah, we'll talk about it next week because I will be doing a watch party, guys, next Saturday for Detroit Pro because it has a free live stream thanks to Fuad. And I got to mention the other guys because people got mad at me last time. Like, why didn't you give Paul Luzon and Ben Chow? When I see when I think about the promoter of the show, I'm really only thinking about the main guy, Fuad Abiyad, but obviously he's not doing all the grunt work for the setting up the show. Paul Lazon is helping out, Ben Chow, and I don't know if anyone else is. Front legs look super good. My hamstrings are not the same old. No, let's go to the posing. His hamstrings are pretty damn great. They're pretty damn great. Let's go. So yeah, crazy. Look at those deep separations between the quad heads, and now he goes to the side. And yeah, he doesn't have the hams of like a horse MD. Martin has better hams as well, I would say. But from the back, the hams look, wow, you know, nice, deep, clear separations between the semimembranosus, and the biceps femori. I still remember the words. Yes, I hope I better remember the words. You're saying, and there was a point system. Yeah, the point system has only been gone a couple of years. It wasn't around that long. Still freaking massacred the guys with small waist. Ooh, Nick has too many imbalances and judges prefer shape and structure now. Well, if that were true, I mean, he wouldn't have beat Martin last year. If the judges preferred shape and structure, they would have chosen Martin Fitzwater over Nick Walker last year at New York Pro, and they didn't. They chose Nick. So to say that judges prefer this or that, it's not. They have their own preferences. Each individual judge. That's why some of them will give first place, like last year. Some of them gave first place to Martin at the Detroit Pro. Some of them gave first place to Vito here. Judges, that's a good thing. I'm glad that they're not all, quote unquote, on the same page, because that would mean that only one type of physique ever had a chance. And that's really not fair, because there are all different types of good physiques. There's the mass monsters. There's the more aesthetic types. Even in a division like Classic, you have a good range of types of physiques that all win shows. You know, sometimes if a couple shows in a row are won by like a mass guy, a mass monster without this, who doesn't have the smallest waist, people will say that's what the judges like now. But then a week later, there'll be another show and someone who's more symmetrical will win with a smaller waist. And people will say, no, the judges like this. You know, but there's no consistency, only because there's a lot of different judges. You know, they're all very experienced and have a great eye for physiques, but they all have their own personal opinions and preferences as to what constitutes the perfect physique. Afraid for Nick's health. Maybe he will retire. I don't see him retiring anytime soon. Mostly like a circulation problem. Look at his legs. Yeah, there's been videos done about his varicose veins. Who's diabetic? Maybe he is, but I don't think he's diabetic. GoodVito looks good. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people thought, I think from the name Vito, they assume he's Italian, because Vito is a very common Italian name. But his name is actually Vitalii, which is a very common Russian name, and that's where he's from. But he's been in Brazil for years. He's married to a Brazilian woman, and he speaks perfect Portuguese. He posts on Instagram every day, assuming he's doing his own posting in Portuguese. Do I think it's a good idea for Derek to compete in Pittsburgh? No, I don't. I did a whole video yesterday about it where I asked you guys to offer your own opinion. And if you missed it and you want to throw that opinion in there, go ahead. But I just don't think it's a bright idea, a good idea, to try to peak 100% 3 times in the span of 7 months. Arnold Classic was beginning of March. May 10th is a Pittsburgh Pro, and the Olympia is October 12th, I believe. It's the 12th and 13th, something like that. So can it be done? I'm sure it can be done. But why take that chance if you really want to win the Olympia? And the Olympia is going to be tough. It's always tough. But Derek lost the Olympia last year to Samson Dauda. He really wants to get that Olympia title back. He's already proven he can beat Samson. He beat him. He just beat him. Well, he'd beaten him before, but he just beat him at the Arnold Classic. Hadi Choopan has had an entire year to prepare for this, a solid offseason. Hadi is a warrior. He's very fierce, very, very driven man. I can't see Hadi Choopan coming in anything less than 100%. You know, and he even learned a lesson, I believe, last year he did the Arnold Classic and in both Columbus and UK last year in March. And a lot of people believe, and I don't know, you know, there's no way to really know for sure or prove it, that that's what made him just a tiny bit off his very best last year at the Olympia. And it was enough to have Samson beat him, to allow Samson to get that win over him. So They're all very close to each other. Samson, Derek, Hadi, Martin's getting up to that level too now. So you can't come in anything less than your best and expect to win the Olympia. It's not like the old days. In the old days, the reigning Mr. Olympia could show up at 90% and the judges would be like, all right, it's fine. You didn't knock the champ out, so he's going to stay Mr. Olympia. Those days are gone. You got to be 100%, and the best man on stage that day wins, whether he's the reigning Mr. Olympia, whether he was second place last year, third, fourth, doesn't matter. I think Rami won with Aceto, absolutely peeled. Yeah, Chris Aceto is an amazing coach. There's no question. Samson might be, again, that would be a bad idea for Samson. I think anyone who did the Arnold Classic, I would hold off until the Olympia if you're qualified. Samson's obviously qualified because he's the reigning Mr. Olympia. He doesn't need to qualify. He doesn't need to do Pittsburgh. Sure, 100 grand is not chump change. Even second place is $50,000, not chump change. But would it impair his ability to show up? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're watching this in the replay. Let me know in the comments. Is it a bad idea for these guys to do multiple shows a year? And keep in mind, for those of you who don't understand, it does take a toll on the body being in prep. It's being on the diet, being on all these different PEDs that are employed. And prep is the largest cocktail of PEDs that you're ever going to be on as a bodybuilder. Off season, they can get away with just a couple different types of gear, maybe GH, maybe insulin. They're usually not using fat burners and things like that. But when it's time for prep, they're on 4 or 5 different types of steroids. They're still on growth hormone until close to the end. Now they're on clenbuterol. They're on thyroid meds. At the end, they might be using diuretics, all kinds of peptides being used. Prep it's definitely a more toxic type of cycle than your basic off-season cycle, which is ironic because most people think when the guys are at their biggest and heaviest in the off-season, strongest, that's where they're on the most gear. Not at all. Not really. They don't need to be because they have plenty of calories and they're not doing as much cardio. So the demands on their body's recovery ability, it's not that great. They're able to still recover and grow. Whereas in prep, now they're in a caloric deficit. They're doing all this cardio. They need a lot of different drugs to maintain all that muscle mass and to help burn the fat, while they're preparing for the shows. Rami with Aceto, Simpson would be surprised. $100 for one day. Yeah, it's not unheard of. I mean, the Olympia VIP ticket covers you for a few days, but that's like $1,000. 80 to 92,000 more competition in general in all sports. The rest of the football there is tough these days. The Bulls' next rivalry. Yeah. Oh, I think every sports fan can look back to their favorite sport, and they probably have, unless they're a young kid or something, they probably can recall an era that they felt was far more competitive and exciting than today. Nick looks just as nuts. Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll be talking about Nick. Don't worry. But Pittsburgh's still quite a ways away. 7 weeks away, I think. Bob Chico, Nick's something. No, Bob didn't tamper with Nick's food. It's impressed me. No one wants all the health problems coming looking like this also. Well, you say no one, but these guys do. But I agree, TCTC. Open bodybuilding, the participation is far less than the other men's divisions, classic physique and men's physique. And health is probably a reason, but a lot of them are young guys. They're really not that worried about their health because they're young and they think they're going to live forever anyway. But it takes a lot more gear and a lot more food to look like this than it does a men's physique competitor. Yes, everybody trains hard. The difference is really the food and the PEDs. To put on this type of muscle mass, it's dedicated to eating. We're talking 5-6 meals a day, every day for years. They don't feel like eating all those meals every day. I'm sure they don't, but they do it because it has to be done. And, the PEDs, they have to use a certain amount. Not everybody uses the same amounts, contrary to what's posted a lot of times. Like they're all on 5 grams of gear and 20 hours. Some of them do use crazy amounts of gear like that, but NGH, but not all of them. They don't all use it. GoodVito rear lat has wings like lats, but in the front double, they disappear somehow. I would say they disappear, but it's a little bit of a longer waist. Guys with shorter torsos, like Kai Green and William Bonac, they do appear to have lower hanging lats just because the torso is so short. Does GoodVito have signs of that lower back atrophy issue? No. No, he doesn't have lat insertions that go that low. You're talking about guys that did have lats that were lower, developed in the lower region, and then the development sort of atrophied. Vito never had lats that were that low. I mean, let's go back to, if you compare him to Martin, you can see Martin has lower lat insertions, you'll see, than Vito does. Let's go look to that. We won't see it until they turn around. Calian, do they have? Okay, so that's still a sidetrack. No, you're thinking of Vito Corleone. No, his name's not really Vito. It's Vitalii. It's not the Italian Vito. All right, so here we go. This is where you can see the difference in the lats. Like, watch how low they insert. So here, you see all that space? There's a lot more space between the lower part of Vito's lats versus Martin, and that's just a genetic thing. That's where they insert. It's like some guys have longer biceps and some guys have shorter biceps. Derek has a chip on his shoulder. He said Martin would have beat him at the Olympia. Doing Pittsburgh will create distance from him. Yeah, I seriously, I don't think Derek would enter the Pittsburgh show just to beat Martin. Derek doesn't want to just beat Martin. Derek wants to beat every other man on that Olympia stage, and Martin is not the man to beat. Martin was almost beat him when that was like the worst Derek we'd seen in a very long time. He was over dieted. His legs were significantly downsized and flat looking. We saw very, very different Derek Lunsford on stage at the Arnold Classic when he won. It was enough to beat Sampson, the reigning Mr. Olympia. Horrible idea for Lunsford, all top guy training Viola. Yep, that's what I agree, TC. Olympia doesn't gain much. Just keep your eye on the prize. Yeah, and the Olympia, like I said, it's $650,000 at least. I'm saying it right here and now. I bet they go to $750 this year for first prize. And next year, is Hadi working with another coach, or is Hani still advising him secretly? I don't know, but if I'm a gambling man, I would say Hani is still working with him. Because for one thing, Hadi Chupan only speaks Farsi. He doesn't speak English. There's not a lot of coaches that speak Farsi out there. Hani does, and Hani knows him very well. And Hadi has never come out and said, this is my new coach, has he? He hasn't said, well, I'm still working with Hani, but he never came out all this time. Because remember, Hani Rambod made the announcement shortly after the Olympia last year. It's been a long time. So I think if Hadi had a new coach, we'd know about it by now. GoodVito will shock some people. I think the show will be a lot closer than many think. Well, if you're talking about Pittsburgh, I don't think it's going to be close for Brazil. I think he's got Brazil all wrapped up. Sure is. Mr. O'Trends is all duck eggs. Mike is 80 now. No, Mike is my age. He's 50. Well, he's 56. I think he already had his birthday for the year. My birthday's in September, but I think, let's see, when is Mike O'Hearn's birthday? I think he's already had his birthday this year. I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Mike O'Hearn birthday. Michael O'Hearn. January 26, 1969. Yeah, he's 56. So not quite 80. No, I'd love to make it to 80. I don't know if it's in the cards. He's got worse than new picks. You're probably talking about Nick's gut. Blessings from Australia, 8:30 Sunday morning. Yeah, dang tweet. Because my son went to, he did a semester at University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia in the first few months of 2024. He was there from late January till June. And I always knew what time it was in Brisbane because, we're coordinating our FaceTime and things like that around when he was awake. Martin's pretty massive. And this is Martin. This was a year ago. Martin's gotten bigger since then. If you believe his latest updates, and I did a video about that on this channel earlier in the week, he's up 20 pounds of muscle. Paul DeMeo, Paul was just a beast. Yeah, I knew Paul. God bless his soul. Paul DeMeo Quadzilla, for those of you who don't know, was really, really good. Took him a long time to turn pro. It was tough to turn pro back then, guys. I remember he was in that 91 Nationals class, the heavyweight class, because toward the end of the 90s, there was no super heavyweight class. Everybody over 198 and a quarter was in one class. And in 1991, the heavyweight class had like 35 guys in it. Kevin Leveroni won, but you had guys in the top 10 like Ronnie Coleman, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Paul DeMeo, Matt Mendenhall. It was even Bob Chick was up there. He says, take a break, not retiring. I don't know what you mean. Vito's Latin versus okay. They're getting higher with no wrinkles. I don't know. His lats didn't look like they were getting higher to me in that update. The real report took for losing actual test if I go on now. Oh man, you're confusing me with all these numbers. Do me a favor, real report. Copy and paste that and put it on the last video for Ask Dr. Testosterone, because that's something more he would be. I know a little bit about that, but he's a doctor, he's an MD, and he knows a lot about PEDs. Yeah. Anyway, well, I think I've been yapping long enough, don't you think so? I'm gonna go back to that's my cackle of a laugh I have there. So GoodVito, guys. GoodVito looking crazy. Heavy favorite. I don't know anyone else going into Arnold Brazil. Yeah, last year we had Tonio Burton and Rafael Brandao were the top two, and Vito was right behind him in third. Rafael is out for the year. Tonio Burton had a terrible motorcycle accident. He's on the mend, but I don't think he's going to be competing this year. I don't know anybody else going in. Of course, the list will come out, and we'll probably see some good names on there for sure. I mean, it's an Arnold Classic show. I can't imagine nobody will show up, but Vito is a heavy favorite. Dennis would have been top 385 at the worst at the Olympia. I don't know if he would have won. I mean, Sean Ray, Kevin Levrone, and Flex Wheeler never won Olympias. Persevere in the amateur. Yeah, it took Bob 15 years, I think, at the national level. Let's hope the waist stays tight. All right, guys, I am going to wrap it up. Got to go walk my pit bull branch. Love that doggy to death. So that's it, guys. Appreciate y'all watching. And again, remember, we are going to be doing a live watch party for Detroit Pro right here on this channel next week, because it's going to be a free live stream. So I'm not breaking anyone's balls. I'm not taking away their profits. You'll still see all their advertising and things like that. Any pertinent comments? Yeah. Nah. Pitbull is legal? Yes. In the U.S. they are. Yeah, they are. So that's it, guys. I'll be doing videos between now and then, of course. But remember, next Saturday is the Detroit Pro, and we'll be doing a live watch party here. Big Mike Cox will be joining me. Detroit. I said Detroit. Detroit Pro is next weekend. Pittsburgh is until May. And I hope all of you can join. We can give our comments and critiques and predictions live in real time as the show is happening. Always love to do that. And that's it. So thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend. Next up, probably doing another Ask Dr. Testosterone with Dr. George Suliatos tomorrow. So keep your notifications on, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.